District on Tuesday, December 12, 2023. I call the meeting to order at 7:03. Let the record reflect that all board members are present. Mrs. Orway, Mr. Carter, Miss Stephanie, they're all on the phone, right? Okay. If you're able to stand, please do so and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
you may be seated. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. All that opposed, say
Aye.
nay.
Aye.
We're going to move on to item 3, district report. Item 8, finance. Mr. Miglorino, do you have a presentation for this?
President Paperman, just an oral presentation this evening. Members of the board, Dr. Finch, we have the November M&O report to share with you this evening. I am want to report that the M&O report for November will look very similar to the October report. Not a whole lot that's noteworthy here. Still reporting that we have $12.5 million of unallocated funds in fiscal year 24. Again, that was $4 million was by design in the budget that was created through the process that we use annually. And then the state provided an additional $8.4 million worth of one-time funding after the budget was created through our regular process. So the combination of those two, adding to the $12.5 million. We are not bringing a December budget revision to the board this year because the State Department of Education has not updated all of the information to be able to adjust the budget. So we're still showing the working budget here of $277 million. It is worth noting that we are funded on current year funding. Our enrollment has been down consistently through the beginning of this school year. So we do have a note at the bottom here showing that the ADM, an ADM reduction of 1%, which is where we think we might land. It says $2 million. That should actually be $2.2 million. We'll get that corrected on future reports. So that is not included in that $12.5 million. So if you were to net that together, you're looking at more like $10.3 million worth of unallocated funds currently in the current year budget. The negotiation solution team met this afternoon and continues to meet throughout the year. We'll be looking at options. The group I will report tonight there was a consensus amongst, not that we voted, but that there was an agreement amongst the group that there wasn't any decisions that the group wanted to make regarding that $10 million, at least in the immediate future. They want to make that decision sometime in the second semester of how those funds would be allocated. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Any questions, board members?
Just one real quick.
Mrs. Fisher?
So are you expecting to end up with an ADM of 1 down? Because the last report, I mean, we've been running about 1.3, 1.4. The last one was 2%. So are you, I mean, obviously it's an average of the first 100 days, but are we expecting it to be at 1, or is it going to be greater than?
President Paperman, Ms. Fisher, We use the 1% so that we can do some quick math on that. If it was 2%, we would double it. If it was half of it, if it was a 0.5%, we would just cut it in half. So it's there as a reference. We are expecting something close to a 1% reduction. It will actually be based on the weighted student count. And there have been, again, one of the numbers that the State Department doesn't have, again, the reason we're not doing the December budget revision is the Group B weights might be an increase. So there may be an offset between enrollment and Group B weights that it's closer to 1%. Thinking.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board member?
No,
So I do have,
no.
oh, Mrs. Orway.
I think that was Mrs. Simacek. I don't have any questions.
Yeah, Mrs. Simacek doesn't have any questions either.
Okay, I have a question. Can you explain to the community members what happens when enrollment goes down with our budget? To let them know how that affects when it comes to the allocation.
Certainly, President Paperman, so the way the funding formula works in the state of Arizona is we get funded based on the average daily membership, which is kind of an assimilation of the number of students that are enrolled in the district. So if the number of students increase, then the amount of funding that the district receives increases. Conversely, if the number of students decreases or the average daily membership decreases, then there would be a reduction. Hence the note that we have placed at the bottom of the M&O report for the month, that a 1% reduction would equal about $2.2 million.
For the past 3 years, how much enrollment has gone down? Is it consistency, like the number of students that have gone, of the enrollment going down?
Yeah, President Paperman, so it hasn't been consistent. Some of those years include the pandemic, and so there was a considerable decrease. If you look back to just a year ago, there was actually an increase in the number of students a year ago. And in this particular year, we're experiencing a decline. So it has varied over the last several years.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're moving on to item 4, call to the public. Mrs. Fisher, please read the admonishment and call speakers.
We do have 11 speakers, so you will have 2.72 minutes, unless they want to adjust to 3. It's her call. You fine?
3 minutes? Well,
Yeah,
that's
so
what
she
they
will
get.
adjust it up to 3.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and call the names. Go ahead and come up to the podium, and then I'll read the admonishment for everyone. Jeanette Scofos, Jennifer Diebel, Christy Krieger, Alexis Reed, Larry Scofos, Matt Timberville, Kelly Fisher, Jerry Knorr, Josh Hawkins, Tiffany Hawkins, and Ty Mullen. The board invites public comments on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. All speakers must observe the rules of decorum. Speakers must fill out the card listing the name, address, topic, and hand it to the board secretary prior to the president calling the meeting to order. Speakers must make their comments in no more than 3 minutes. If necessary to accommodate all speakers within 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten each speaker's time. Constructive criticism is in order. Rudeness, vulgarity, disruptive conduct, remark disparaging personal dignity are not in order and will not be allowed. Under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, governing board cannot discuss or act on any items not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism made by a speaker, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. Go ahead and step up to the Mike, state your name for the record, and then you have your 3 minutes.
Hello. Yep, okay. My name is Jeanette Scopus, and I'm also speaking for my daughter and her family and our 3 grandchildren, and we all live in the Deer Valley School District. Um, Tonight, I'd like to speak in support of adopting the 678 McGraw-Hill ELA curriculum. Over this past school year, maybe we should do this, and last, I've been impressed with our Deer Valley School District's educational specialists. 1, their preparedness for board meetings and varied topics. 2, their knowledge base. 3, and their commitment to support the board, superintendent, and others in a professional manner. 4, if they cannot answer on the spot, it seems they say so, no guessing. Because of that, I see and I hear their integrity, their honesty, a strong work ethic, and sometimes even a sense of humor. And no, I'm not related to any of them. So my question respectfully is this: why, or even better, how is it that now doubts appear as to this review team's capacity to assure the board of their steadfast commitment that this adoption of the 678 McGraw-Hill ELA curriculum is the best for teachers to teach and for students to learn? As I understand, this curriculum was widely supported by the review team as well as the public input out of the 3 ELA programs reviewed, compared and contrasted to the satisfaction to all. By adopting, then, are we more in the mode of forward thinking? In other words, attracting and retaining teachers, which help attract more families into our Deer Valley Public Schools. Please reconsider your votes for the majority of our families versus the minority. But we all want the best for our teachers and our students in our public schools, working with robust curricula. Please reconsider your votes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Dybel, and I am a 7th grade ELA teacher at Highland Lake School here in the Deer Valley Unified School District. I'm also the parent of a current 7th grade student who will be an 8th grade student in the district next year. And I would also like to speak in support of the McGraw-Hill Study Sync curriculum. As a veteran teacher who has previously attained the highest student ELA growth on the state reading and writing test in the past, I have reviewed this curriculum myself, and I do believe that it is our best option moving forward to teach the standards in a rigorous and effective manner. And as a parent, I believe that it is an acceptable and useful tool for my son to learn and to hone his skills in English language arts. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christy Kroger, and I am the proud parent of both a 7th grader and an 11th grader here in the district, as well as an award-winning educator here in the district. To be in alignment with best practices, educators need access to a guaranteed and viable curriculum that allows for the explicit instruction of the skills in each essential standard. Research indicates that exposure to different genres and mediums allows for deeper connections and higher engagement in learning outcomes. Every day in classes across the district, students learn that reading is thinking. They make predictions and connections, infer meaning, ask questions, summarize the text, and visualize the setting and stories. With the current curriculum of collections set to expire, the ELA Adoption Committee, comprised of educators with advanced degrees, district staff with a deep pedagogy of learning, and community members committed to ensuring the next generation of students think critically and write intelligently came together to pore over curriculums that meet the needs of students today. The Study Sync program through McGraw-Hill, which has been proposed for adoption, presents students with opportunities to learn from the great classics, such as Moby Dick, and engaging modern literature, such as Hatchet, a beloved novel by many students here in our district. The curriculum also addresses strategies to unlock learning for hundreds of our EL learners who are learning language acquisition skills in addition to those literature and informational standards. Professor and organizational psychologist Dr. Adam Grant states, "It takes curiosity to learn. It takes courage to unlearn." I encourage the board to demonstrate courage and curiosity by digging deeper into the proposed ELA curriculum and reconsider adopting it for middle school ELA. I encourage you to ask questions of the committee about how the curriculum meets the state standards, how it engages students in classical and modern literature, and how the learning that comes from this curriculum will meet the rigor required for the next generation of global thinkers. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alexis Reed, and I'm a community member in Deer Valley, former teacher and grandparent. I was able to watch a link for the ELA curriculum, which looks very stimulating to me, not like the old English classes of the day. That's what happens when you're short. I did see many book titles flash by that are on many banned book lists. I wonder if that was a problem for some on the board. I am concerned that the 91.7% of the committee recommended this curriculum, yet you aren't willing to accept their recommendation. Dr. Galligan's expertise headed up this committee of knowledgeable teachers and parents. I was quite frankly flabbergasted to hear some say there weren't enough blonde, blue-eyed students represented. Just look around this room. You could say that about our meetings. I hope the board will reconsider voting for this curriculum. Thank you.
Good evening, Larry Scofus. My wife had already mentioned that we have 3 grandchildren here in the district. I just had a few comments as well about the McGraw-Hill program. As I look around the room, I think there are probably a few of us that grew up in the 1950s with Dick and Jane. Fun with Dick and Jane. I don't know how much fun it was, but we learned to read with those primers, and it worked for first and second graders for the most part. However, we're talking about 6th through 8th graders now, and we need to do more than just learn to read. We need to read to learn, as they say. And I think that after reviewing what has been presented to the board by those who spent a lot of time looking at the various curriculums, the board really needs to take a second look at the program and adopt the recommendations. Now, I was a career prosecutor for many years, and as a prosecutor, I relied on expert witnesses all the time. And we do that because we want to give the best information we can to jurors so they can make an informed decision in reaching a verdict. We look at experts for their expertise, believe it or not. And it's because lay people, for the most part, don't have that same knowledge. So I don't go down the street asking Dick and Jane whether or not they have an opinion as to whether the victim of a homicide had a particular cause of death. I talk to the pathologist, and I give the information through the pathologist, an expert. So I ask the board again, give deference to the expert in this situation. You weren't elected for your political views, or at least I hope not, because this is a nonpartisan position that you hold. I hope that you fully understand that we're all here for the best interest of our students here in the district, and I implore you really to adopt the McGraw-Hill program. Thank you.
My name is Mac Tuberville. I'm a resident of the district and I have a son in Sunset Ridge. Um, I look through the curriculum and it looks to me like probably where the controversy is coming from is in these units, which have a lot of books and essays and poems, that sort of thing. And some of them look like they came from a uh, very diverse viewpoints. And perhaps some of them discussed some hard truths. Um, One of the things I'll say is, first thing I thought is, I said, man, there's a lot of stuff in here. I mean, you talking about books and books and lots of stuff. So clearly, to me, all of this stuff is not going to be covered in a year. I mean, these kids aren't going to be reading, 10 books a year for class plus poems and essays. They're going to receive some of this stuff. Um, so it's not all of that. Not all of that stuff is going to be read. There's going to be a selection. Um, I just know in my life, I've read a lot of books. I enjoy history. I read a lot of history, and I've read a lot of different kind of history. I've read some history that I still enjoy reading. That talks very positively about our country and all the triumphs and achievements and all the good things we've done. I've read some other books that, like I say, have some hard truths. I can't think of any of that stuff that made me embarrassed to who I was or embarrassed to stand up here and pledge the flag or anything like that. What it did for me is it uh, gave me a broader understanding of the country I live in and the people in it, and an appreciation of everybody in it. And I don't know, I've never read an idea whether I agreed with it or not, that at the end of the day, I regretted learning about that idea. I mean, it taught me some truth, gave me an enhanced viewpoint or a different viewpoint, or maybe I disagreed with it and discarded it entirely. But at the end of the day, I didn't see anybody in there who was going to hurt anybody to learn. So that's my thoughts.
Good evening. My name is Tate Moline, and I'm the ELA Co-Department Chair at Barry Goldwater High School. I also support the 6-8 ELA Study Sync McGraw-Hill curriculum. I was disappointed to see the school board vote against the adoption of this curriculum. While I was not a part of the adoption committee, I believe it sets a poor precedent and sends a dangerous message to stakeholders when the school board invalidates the process and disregards the hard work and time of volunteer teachers and parents to vote against a committee recommendation without at least asking for more information or clarification. Personally, I don't want to be a part of any district committee if my time is going to be disregarded by the school board and my hard work thrown away without the school board asking the committee for additional information. I would ask the school board to please reconsider the curriculum committee's recommendation and honor the time and effort put into this recommendation by the stakeholder volunteers. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Fisher. I am the DVEA president and at heart a kindergarten teacher in the district for 22 years. I wanted to stand here tonight and thank some staff members and administrators and office staff across the district. We visited 6 schools the week before Thanksgiving break, and I wanted to thank all of them publicly. We visited Desert Sage, Barry Goldwater, Mirage, Desert Mountain, Mountain Ridge High School, and Stetson Hills. And truly, everyone was very welcoming. The office staff, as we all know, at every campus is absolutely amazing. And all of the administrators we had a chance to work with were just fantastic and super supportive of us being on campus and very welcoming. And I wanted to take a moment. Over the last month, we've done this big membership blitz, and I've thanked a lot of people for helping me with this crazy idea. But I wanted to take a moment and thank Kim Lanise and the Park Meadows staff, especially their office staff. They spent a lot of time. They provided us a space for us to use to sort of mobilize from, and they welcomed everyone from AEA and DVEA onto the campus, in and out throughout crazy times, 7 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they could not have been more accommodating, and I really appreciate that. And I wanted to make sure that everyone knew how amazing the Park Meadows staff is. And I just wanted to take a moment to announce that at the last meeting, I said we were very close to majority status, and we have since achieved and surpassed that goal. And for the first time in a very long time, we have well over 50% of our certified staff as members of the union. And this is a very exciting time for me. And I just wanted to say that I think that it's a great opportunity for us to start to continue to build relationships with all of our colleagues across the district and to do the good work for our students. So thank you very much.
Good evening, Chairman Paperman, Board Member Fisher, public, paid staff. I'm really happy to see that at least 2 board members can make it here in person to their meeting.
State your name for the record, please.
I'm sorry, my name is Jerry Knorr. I was suggesting maybe we can get some cardboard cutouts to fill the seats there. That would be kind of neat. I'm here to speak about discussion item 8A. I believe it's been on the topic for board meetings 4 to 5 times. I'm a little confused about some of the information. I've heard a lot. Apparently, this is regarding a $400,000 consulting contract, a contract that's not transparent to the public, so I have no idea what's in it. But there's some controversies around it. I've heard child molesting concerns. I've heard problems where the teachers don't feel they need it, that they're not getting paid for the time, that they can do it in-house. So I'm confused about where we're at with this. It feels like we're spending money to spend money, and I'm not sure where it originated from or who got this started or who's backing this, but I also have not heard anything positive about this. Again, it's the 5th time it's been up on the board docket. I'm wondering what we're going to do about it and where we're going with this. Apparently, we hired this consultant with no background check. I'm not sure how that can happen. I'm not speaking factually about anything because the transparency of this district is very poor, and all we can go by is what we hear around the district. So I'd like a lot of clarification on this issue. Child molesting is a serious crime, a serious concern. $400,000 is a lot of money, and our kids' education and their safety are at stake. So I just want to thank you for this time, and I wish everyone a Merry Christmas and God bless.
Joshua Hawkins. Good evening, Board. When you sign for a license, you're agreeing that you have studied the rules and laws of the road, practiced, and are ready to join other drivers. When you do this, you're agreeing to the whole law, not the rules that you want to follow or are convenient. If you're pulled over for a violation, your ignorance of the law is no excuse, and you are punished. Laws govern all, not some. No exceptions. Consequences are issued equally, from the least to the greatest of leaders. No great leaders are here tonight, but my point still remains. This district has admitted in several meetings that they are at fault for ongoing issues the students face. They've admitted their policies are flawed, they need better training, and they can do better complying with the law. Everyone in the ALS team has agreed change is needed. Trust is the other necessary component to change. We no longer trust this district. As we mentioned before, when in 2018 those parents came forward and said enough is enough of us losing our kids, they brought you the issues then. The lack of enforcement, holding students accountable for their actions and words. Those parents begged for change then, demanded documentation, stronger policies, and to notify parents to prevent this level of loss from happening again. But what have you done? The only tangible change was adding the word harassment to a policy. The AMGs were never even updated, which is the worst part since the AMGs are the superintendent's instructions to the staff on how they are to carry out these policies. So you kept doing it the same old way and updated the policy just for show. You continue to willfully misinterpret the grammar of the policy to fit your view rather than make actual policy change that can better this district. We have done nothing more than attempted to advocate for change to fix the future for all students, and yet it feels like we are being punished for wanting better. This administration has intentionally dragged its feet at every step, taking till the end of deadlines, waiting till the end of the day to respond, and providing incomplete requests. We finally got records from our schools, but it seems a little light. No surprise, all the previous records of any harassment forms we completed or reported are not present. This district inadequately trained the principals of proper record keeping in all aspects. Some were not reported at all, while others were recorded and somehow in the district's move-up policy failed to move up. After the school sent us to the district, and the district sent us to the schools, then the district took over and stated that they would gather them, but then the schools gave them us anyway. The runaround was not needed. It was confirmed recently that Dr. Z instructed them to withhold our records until we could collect everything for us. We requested these months ago and were made to wait 3 additional weeks while they sat printed on a desk until the admin said so. While they were instructed to not contact us either, we were trying to reach out to report another harassment issue repeated from a similar student, and we were ignored. Dr. Z, I recently referred you as a phallus to a district staff member. They said they've heard it both ways, and I guess it could be.
Tiffany Hawkins. Good evening, Board. In 2018, your policy was only changed by a few words. To quote Ms. Moffett again, if we put something out there and never
Please don't
touch it
use staff members' name. Thank you.
Okay. If we put something out there and never touch it again, you'll never use it. And she's sitting right there. Well, I have a few words for you to add this year. Enforcement, oversight, compliance, training, standards. Without actions, these are simply words on a page. Ironically, words on a page is what brought us here. If we simply use what Ms. Moffett advice was to use policies, we can prevent and repeat of the tragedy in 2018. Enforcement of your existing policies would have prevented the months of torture we have gone through with this district. By using your investigation forms, following proper procedures and documentation the issues, and follow through with discipline, you would have shown a district that cares about kids and cares about the rules. You failed to document any case in a way that could be tracked and referred back to. This prevents ever-reaching aggravated circumstances and elevating your discipline for students who fail to follow the rules after repeatedly receiving interventions. By failing to implement the policies and enforce them, you have taught the students they are not accountable for their actions or words or how it has affected those around them. By allowing this behavior to grow, you have now taught your staff they also are not held accountable for their actions and words. Both students and staff are held to the same standards of basic conduct. This builds trust in the community when we see the rules are being used properly. At least you're consistent. You allow students to physically assault each other without documenting or discipline, the same way you allow Dickey and other certified staff to have multiple levels of misconduct against staff and other students and walk away without consequences for the bad behavior. I was lucky enough to be invited to attend a recent LD3 meeting where 2 of our board members spoke on the community issues we face and how we are dealing with it. Another local mother asked, does your district have a bullying problem? Paul Carver stated, there's a lot of holes in the policies. We're hoping the administration is working on it. Eventually, we're going to have to do something about it. The biggest problem is the inability to force the policies, and not everyone is being held to the same standard. We have the best policies in the world. There's just no one enforcing them. I want to thank him for speaking up. It gives me hope that our cries are being heard and others recognize it's time for change. These are the words we have been saying all along. We need to face the truth. This district hasn't changed at all since 2018 when students' lives were also being lost to harassment and bullying. VP Kim Fisher followed up by saying, bullying is an ongoing issue among staff, students, and district admins. Students are still taking their own lives and something needs to be done. So what are we going to do? Are we going to throw around a few words on a policy and then ignore Ms. Moffitt's advice and never use it again? I firmly believe from the moment on, the district needs to find a way to implement a team to perform oversight on these policies. Oversight to confirm they are doing what it says and everything is complying with the law. new training that stresses the vital need to document any and all behavioral incidents in Power Schools, where Panorama can then analyze the data properly.
Okay. Okay, we're moving on to item 5, old business. Do I have a motion to approve item A?
Hold on, let me get back to the agenda. I love board docs, not tonight. I move that the governing board approve policy IHA basic instruction program as recommended.
Second.
Dr. Gallagher, do you have a presentation for this?
President Paperman, I presented at the last board meeting, and there have been no changes.
All those in favor say aye. All that opposed say nay.
Aye. Aye.
Ready?
5-0. Moving to item B. Do I have a motion to approve item B?
I move that the governing board approve policy JFABDA admission of students in foster care as recommended.
Second.
Dr. Zurbach, is there any presentation for this item?
President Paperman, similar to Galligan said, I presented this one at the last board meeting, and there's been no changes.
All those in favor say aye. All that opposed say nay.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Do I have a motion to approve item C?
I move that the governing board approve policy JLH missing students as recommended.
Second.
Dr. Zurbach, any presentation for this?
President Paperman, no presentation. However, the board did ask for a follow-up as to why the change was made from 5 to 10 days. And it was due to a change in state statute. And so this board policy reflects that change.
Which,
Any questions?
yeah, which statute changed?
President Paperman, Ms. Fisher, I would need to look that up. That was with legal counsel, sent that over. I can put that in Friday's update for you.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye. All that opposed say nay.
Aye.
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 I just want to clarify my vote without knowing statute and checking it. It's the only reason I'm going to vote no. Not that I'm against it, but I just think we need, if we're going to take a large jump that's not in other policies, I need to understand why.
Do I have a motion to approve? Oh, 4-1, okay. Do I have a motion to approve item D? Any, oh, did you?
No.
President Paperman, if I may,
Yes.
we have a presentation for you based on meeting with the 6-8 ELA adoption committee yesterday.
Okay.
Do we have a motion yet?
Mrs. Fisher, any motion?
I do not have a motion at this time because I don't know what to move on. So if another board member has a motion that they know of, they're welcome to make one.
So we make a motion to adopt a 6-8 English language arts curriculum material adoption as recommended.
Are you making that motion?
Yeah, I'm making that motion
Mrs.
because
Orwell made a
I'm
motion.
reading what the motion is.
Second.
Okay, Stephanie second. Any questions on this item D? Oh, she has
I
a
would like to
presentation.
have
Oh, she
Dr.
had, yeah, Mrs., yeah,
Presentation, please.
presentation.
Thank you, President Paperman. President Paperman, members of the board, Dr. Finch, teachers, administrators, parents, and community. Tonight, Kathy White, Director of Academics and Assessment, and I will present additional information for the 6-8 ELA adoption. You will see Danelle Stevenson sitting behind me, who is our 6-12 ELA curriculum specialist and facilitator of the adoption committee, and members of the ELA adoption committee are here as well, seated over here to my left. The 6-8 adoption committee met yesterday afternoon to review the board comments and as a committee identify a next step. Tonight, we will discuss the items that you see on this screen, the purpose for coming back to you, the adoption process, why study sync, and then again, our 6-8 ELA adoption. As I mentioned, the 6-8 ELA Adoption Committee met yesterday to discuss the board's decision not to approve the Adoption Committee's recommendation of the curricular resource for the 24-25 school year. Because of the governing board's 3-2 vote, the committee reconvened to discuss how to move forward. The committee felt that it was important to emphasize their commitment to the adoption process and their conscientious application of all of the steps of the process. They also wanted to ensure that the governing board was fully informed on the reasons the committee recommended McGraw-Hill's study sync. Finally, the committee discussed next steps and would like to share those thoughts with the board for consideration this evening. We will take a few moments to explain the process every adoption in Deer Valley follows, including this one, the 6-8 ELA adoption. They follow a timeline. You will find in front of you or in board docs a copy of the adoption timeline and tasks that every adoption goes through. Our K-5 math did, as well as the 6-8 ELA, just so you can see the scope of the work that is involved in an adoption process. I'll turn it over to Kathy now.
Thank you. President Paperman, members of the board, Dr. Finch, teachers, administrators, parents, and community. The ELA Adoption Committee was diligent in the duties that they were entrusted to carry out to make a curriculum resource recommendation, including adherence to the Arizona Revised Statutes dealing with textbook adoptions and to the governing board policies of IJJ and IJJR, which list the requirements for adoption committees. Committees must ensure that recommended resources support and enrich the school curriculum and to meet the personal needs of the students. Recommended resources are appropriate for the subject area and for the age, emotional development, ability level, learning styles, and social development of students for whom the materials are selected. Resources that are recommended provide a background of information that will motivate students to examine their own attitudes and behavior, to comprehend their duties, responsibilities, rights, and privileges as participating citizens in our society, and to make intelligent judgments in their daily lives. Resources that are recommended provide information on differing sides of issues so that users may develop the practice of critical analysis. Resources are recommended for the atypical student as well as for the average student. Resources are recommended for their strengths rather than rejected for their weaknesses and shall be judged as a whole, and recommendations support and are consistent with general education goals of the district and goals and objectives of specific courses. Within the legislative and district policies, the Adoption Committee adhered to the framework outlined by the Deer Valley Processes and Curriculum Department procedures for communication, team selection, public notifications and review, rubric creation, vendor interactions, and consensus building. The process for the 6-8 grade ELA adoption began in February 2023 with the creation of a timeline and committee member recruitment materials. In March of 2023, the governing board was notified of the plan to commence an adoption process for 6th through 8th grade ELA materials. The proper committee forms were submitted and recruitment of committee members began. Committee members were selected based upon a random selection process. With the guidance of the purchasing department, communication to vendors to request letters of intent was delivered. In April, committee members made up of Deer Valley teachers, campus administrators, parents, and department staff began their meetings. This team developed the adoption selection rubric, reviewed the materials submitted by vendors, and as a team selected semifinalist vendors. They also engaged with selected vendors during vendor presentations. The 6-8 ELA team then selected finalist vendor curriculum resources to put forward for a 60-day public review and submitted resource software requests to IS&T for evaluation. Meeting minutes were posted on the district website promptly following each meeting of the committee. The public review period of the final 3 vendors began in May 2023. Communication of the public review was conducted in multiple formats, including emails to parents and teachers, the district website, posters at district sites and schools, the Peach Jar parent flyer system, and meetings with teachers and staff. The public review period concluded in August 2023, and the committee met to review the public input. "85 people submitted feedback during the public review. Just under 92% identified McGraw-Hill's 6-8 Study Sync as the top resource for Deer Valley students and teachers. The teachers, administrators, and parents and department staff did due diligence in reviewing all feedback submissions to determine a final 6-8 ELA curriculum resource recommendation to the board. Utilizing the feedback from the public review, their own rubric ratings, information gathered from the vendor presentations, and the IS&T evaluation, the committee came to a consensus for a final recommendation, which was presented to the governing board on November 14th for review and questions. On November 28th, the governing board voted against the committee's recommendation. Since there is not an option to renew the current curriculum materials because the materials are end of life and no longer available, the committee met on December 11th to discuss possible next steps. As you have heard, this committee, made up of many teachers, educators, and parents, diligently engaged in the lengthy and arduous process to recommend the most appropriate, feasible, reasonable, aligned, and robust possible product. Knowing that they carried a high level of responsibility and trust for the organization and for the district students, the recommendation was made after considerable research on each of the vendor products.
The 6-8 ELA Adoption Committee met last night to review the board's feedback from the last board meeting. The committee considered options for how best to proceed, and we'll be sharing their thoughts with you now. There are several reasons why StudySync was favored in comparison to the other products. First, StudySync is well aligned with the ELA Arizona state standards. It is comprehensive in addressing the rigors of those standards. In fact, it was built to meet the new requirements in Arizona's ELA standard development that go far beyond what is taught in classrooms, even just a decade ago. For example, the Arizona state standards require collaborative discussion with diverse partners, building on others' ideas and expressing their own clearly within grade level topics, texts, and issues, per the comprehension and collaboration section of the Arizona College and Career Ready standards. With a district that has more than doubled the number of English language learners, from 630-ish students just a year and a half ago to 1,500 English language learner students currently, the strength of the ELL supports was an important component that the team identified. The committee liked that the product can be customized to meet the needs of our district and community by regulating access to the content and/or features. A big plus was the platform's ease of use for both the teacher and the student side. As is true for all of our sister districts, we all have many new teachers to the profession. In Deer Valley, we have our teacher prep program teachers who are in the classroom, and also a plethora of teachers within their first 3 years of service. The committee appreciated how higher level thinking skills and critical thinking opportunities were built into the 6-8 ELA resource. The parent dashboard was the most robust of the products considered and included mobile access availability. A standout feature of this resource is the consumable materials provided, which were a highly valued item for our middle school teachers, especially 6th grade. StudySync embeds support materials to aid teachers in addressing the needs of students at a variety of proficiency levels with scaffolded supports and enrichment or extension activities. The committee noted that the product meets the FERPA, COPA, and other industry standards for protecting students' personal information. During the committee's meeting on December 11th, the team discussed the concerns voiced or shared by some members of the governing board regarding their recommendation of StudySync by McGraw-Hill. The committee participated in 3 different breakout sessions or teams to collaborate together. During the breakouts, the committee members accessed the public demo site to look for the concerns, comments from the public, and select board members' comments. Although no specific examples of the concerns were provided by members of the board, the team re-reviewed the resource materials to try to locate anything that could be construed as critical race theory or similar items, or the lack of diverse population representation, and were unable to uncover any examples in the 6-8 StudySync. The breakout teams recorded their comments and shared the information with the whole group. Our committee came to a consensus in August for the StudySync resource. At the November 28th board meeting, the board voted 3-2 as a no. The concerns brought up prior to the vote were not shared with me, Mrs. White, Ms. Stevenson, or members of the ELA committee prior to the board voting. A common question the committee had about the concerns focused on where the content was found in regard to the public and board member comments on critical race theory and other areas of diversity. They recorded their comments and questions on a shared slide, as I mentioned, and as a group came to consensus to continue with the original recommendation. The committee then returned to the main room where all members were a part of the Zoom and shared their slide and asked many more clarifying questions. Committee members individually voted anonymously, choosing one option from 3 in the Google form. That Google form included Take Back StudySync, HMH, or no curriculum adoption for next year. 27 of the original 30 committee members, provided feedback for tonight's agenda item. 3 parents were in attendance last night, and 1 parent watched the meeting recording and then voted. 4 parents total. 2 administrators were in attendance. 18 teachers were in attendance representing 6th through 8th grade levels, gifted, special education, EL, and DVEA union representative. 3 teachers watched the Zoom recording and provided feedback afterward. 21 teachers total. As a team, the committee again did due diligence in researching and responding to the board's comments from the November 28th board meeting. After the breakout moments, the committee members individually, again and anonymously, completed that Google survey before leaving the meeting. 4 committee members who were unable to attend, as I said, responded in the Google survey as well. The committee continues to believe StudySync is the best resource for Deer Valley's middle school students and teachers. In addition to the reasons you have heard, the financial cost differential between the 3 resources is very different. StudySync's cost for 5 years is $783,394. HMH is $1,078,107, almost $300,000 more. And Amplify, the third resource on public review, is $1,113,246, almost $330,000 more. The ELA Adoption Committee feels that they met their responsibility and obligation with due diligence, openness, and use their professional knowledge, experience, and time in the classroom or as a parent with a child in one of our schools or entering middle school. These teachers, educators, and parents value the trust you and the community placed in their hands. They have followed the rigorous adoption process, thoughtfully considered all of the input, and have now provided additional information to address the governing board's expressed concerns. As a group, they respectfully request that the governing board reconsider their vote on the 6th through 8th grade ELA curriculum resource adoption in favor of McGraw-Hill Study Sync in light of the information provided this evening. Also, in the Friday update you received this past Friday, and considering that over 90% of the public input from our stakeholders was in favor of this product. If the governing board determines that the 6-8 Adoption Committee recommendation does not fit your needs as much as any other products, they do not feel that they can move forward at this time. They do not feel that any other products are as good of a fit or as fiscally responsible as the Study Sync product, resulting, unfortunately, in our middle grade students and hardworking teachers being left with a curriculum resource, without a curriculum resource to support them. With the information shared last week, addressing the board's feedback, and also from the discussion with the ELA Adoption Committee last night, I would ask that the board create a motion, which you have done, to approve Deer Valley's administrative recommendation to accept the 6-8 ELA Adoption Committee's recommendation of Study Sync as the resource for our middle grades 6 through 8 beginning in the 2024-25 school year. Thank you.
Any questions, governing board, on the presentation?
I have a couple of observations and questions, absolutely.
Okay, Mrs. Orway.
Dr. Galligan, going to the end first, and then I'll work backwards. If indeed this was not to be adopted, we would have our 6 through 8 teachers piecemealing things together without the resources being able to be renewed. Is that an accurate depiction?
President Paperman, Ms. Ordway, it is one depiction, yes. The current product is end of life, and that vendor is not going to continue supporting it with us. That's not to say that if we did not have a board-adopted curriculum, that our teachers would just be out there willy-nilly. However, they would not have a resource that they would be able to go to daily and weekly. They would be creating their own content to meet the standards. That's why we make recommendations on a resource so that our teachers have as one of the teachers said, a guaranteed and viable curriculum that our board has adopted from the committee's recommendations. So I wouldn't say that they're going to be left out there all alone, but it will be difficult.
So even, I get that they wouldn't be left alone, but the opportunity to have, to have it be uniform throughout the district would not necessarily be guaranteed as it would if we were to adopt this curriculum and have it the same throughout the district, correct?
President Paperman, Ms. Ordway, that would be correct. We would not have a guaranteed and viable curriculum, nor would we have the supports for our English learners, our special education students that are built into this particular material.
And with the second meeting, even though there were many hours put in before this meeting that you got, or the second portion of meetings, the one that you had last night, was it passionate, equal, for this recommendation to go through if possible, or was anyone not sure?
President Paperman, Ms. Ordway, there were 28 of the original 30 who participated, 26 in person, actually it was 24 in person, 4 through the recording, and then the vote. It was a 100% unanimous recommendation for McGraw-Hill's study sync.
And just one more clarification. Within the group that were the teachers, there were association teachers, there were teachers that were not part of the association, there were teachers that teach and are also are parents of these students. Is that a correct depiction of the teacher side of your committee?
President Paperman, Ms. Ordway, yes, all groups of teachers, gen ed, special ed, EL, gifted, were represented, and parents of children in those areas were represented.
Any other questions, governing board members?
I just wanted to make a couple of statements. You know, we are elected to this position to represent one.
I'm sorry. Could you just repeat the last couple of sentences of that?
Yeah, we were put into this position. Excuse me. We were elected by the citizens of our Deer Valley Unified School District in order to an obligation to vote for the best interests of our own students and our teachers and our staff. And I really feel like it's a slap in the face to the process, to Dr. Galligan and her team, when our community comes back with a well-vetted process of approving curriculum with over a 90% approval rating, and to even consider not supporting that ELA curriculum is shameful as school board members for us. This is really something that if you had a problem with, it should have been brought up at the November 14th when we previewed the curriculum. I did not bring it up because I personally agree with the curriculum and I trust the process that our community goes through in order to develop a curriculum that will help our students thrive and grow. And that's exactly what we have been presented with. So I just want to make those little reminders before we go into voting on this topic tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Fisher?
Well, sure. You know, this whole topic and what's occurred in the last, say, week or so really would be a better example of the bullying topic that we have had on how many agendas that we had tried to put it on.
Jesus Christ.
I went ahead and I took some notes on the emails that we received. One was a teacher who was first degrading and condescending, then accusatory about topics that were not factual, and then threatening. There was a teacher, an ELA teacher, that I will honestly say was very polite, said that they wanted us to honor the process. And if not, they wanted an explanation. But they were very kind and polite about it. Then I had another that I received that was said that the criteria was set. They met the criteria. We should adopt it based on that. I had a member of the team that said they were disappointed by the lack of faith in their ability. They felt the concerns had been addressed and they were disappointed that we took 9% over 91%. We had another one that said honor the process, and then went on to a large mantra of guilt about faith in employees. There was another one that was completely misinformed about anything that was actually said at the board meeting. Thought no board members had ever looked at the curriculum. And their final message was vote what I say or else, basically, in a nutshell. And then we come here tonight and get similar comments. And the governing board is not elected to simply approve a process. We are elected to look at information and then make the decision that is in our opinion or on what we have in the best interest of all of Deer Valley. Now, you said you had 85 responses, correct? Or is that number wrong?
President Paperman, Ms. Fisher, there were 85 respondents.
Okay. So we're not talking about a majority of the district. We're talking about, of 85 people, 91% agreed with what the committee said. Now, as we can see, it only takes an email to get about 80 people together. So my concern is that, has the community looked at it? The concerns I got, and yes, some of them referenced CRT, some of them referenced other things. I personally didn't see the one about the blonde kids. I'm not really sure where that comes from.
You said it.
But I did not go into this blindly. What I did was ask to see the curriculum, because for me, what is it? What is it we need to look at? And I took days going through the curriculum. What I didn't see, what I didn't see in any of the emails I received, and what I didn't hear from here tonight, was anybody defending the actual curriculum itself. They've defended the process. They've defended what they believe to be true about either the board vote or what they believed it to be true, without actually, I don't know, maybe they spoke to the other board members. They never spoke to me, so I can't say, I'm not going to put words in anyone else's mouth. But what I can say is, I have yet to hear anybody successfully defend the curriculum itself. So since
I think by saying we support
I'm
the
still
process
speaking.
and everything that
So
went into
Mrs.
our
Fisher's
defense
turn.
curriculum.
since the one very polite asked that we either honor the committee's process or that we explain, and after I give my explanation, if you want to somehow correct what I saw or tell me something different, that can be a discussion. But I don't make decisions based on a bully attitude of you're going to do it or else. Because or else what? So that one teacher is going to get her explanation because, well, number one, because she was polite and very kindly said, you know, I wish you would respect it, but if not, explain. So it's not a matter of us not respecting. I have been involved in multiple adoptions, both professionally and here in Deer Valley. I always make my decision on what I believe is best for the students. So when you first gave us access, I went in and I looked. The focus, I will tell you, ELA is not my favorite subject. Math, all day. You want to put me in ELA, then you better have a good teacher. And by the way, I did have a really good teacher. And they did not focus on curriculum or anything that was based on anything other than ELA. They wanted me to learn to punctuate correctly. They wanted me to read. They wanted me to critically think about what we had read. You know, the first book that I really engaged in was Dune. And we went to the premiere of the show afterwards, and we were able to really discuss the politics in the back end of the sci-fi book. Granted, yes, I'm old. It was in the 80s. Later, I learned in writing to write and remove myself out of it, to remove the emotion. I learned to write a speech, and if you want a 5-minute speech, it's going to be a whole heck of a lot more than a paragraph. So I learned the basis, not because it was something I loved, but it was because something that I had great teachers to teach me. Their focus was on those topics. It was on English, it was on punctuation, it was on spelling, it was on building of a story, it was on descriptive words to build on that story. It was not focused on my race. It was not focused on making one race a victim or another race a hater. It was not focused on dividing the races. I understand racial inequity. I lasted a week in a school 1 week. The saddest part was it was my own cousins that bullied me out of it because I was the wrong color of Hispanic. Sorry, not sorry. I'm just as Hispanic whether I'm brown or blue-eyed or dark hair or not. And when you have a curriculum that's main focus is based on BLM, which we all saw from the riots, that it
I
was
think we're
not
getting
a
off
love.
topic. I think
I
the
am
topic.
not. I'm explaining why I did not support this curriculum. So when I started reading the curriculum,
You're making it about
the
you, though. We
focus,
don't need to hear your life stories.
the
We're here
focus
for the
of
and we're here for the teachers.
McGraw-Hill was BLM.
I disagree.
It was inclusion. It was really divisive. So that was my problem when I looked at McGraw-Hill. I get it because of my history, personal. We got to remove the personal out. So I thought, well, okay, let's look at what else we find. I also found references from teachers in other districts who have adopted it across the country, who talked about the difficulty of setting it up, how it was not user-friendly, how it was very invasive onto them. I looked at a section where they talked about the biggest problem they were having was that when they were teaching a lesson, the kids would come back to school and they would find that the kids were fighting with their parents about whether it's right or wrong and what they were learning. It wasn't even about ELA, it was about immigration. I found references from other areas where teachers were concerned. So I did reach out to other curriculums and said, is there anything else? What do you guys have? It's not that we've let this just linger, but without more than 85 parents saying this is not divisive to my children, I can't support having a curriculum that is notably pushing an agenda without parents saying, yeah, we're fine with it, we will take it up with our kids. We will, you're going to adopt something that's completely against our values, our beliefs, our standing, but we'll deal with it. Unless I can get something from those parents, I just don't see how I can, in good conscience, adopt a curriculum when I see it to be so divisive. And it has nothing to say about the magnitude or the ability of our teachers to teach, because I firmly, if I felt they absolutely needed this and only this to hold their hand because they're not capable of teaching without this one thing making it, then I would definitely adopt it because, gosh, they really had to have it without it. But I know our teachers are better
Mrs.
skilled than
Fisher,
that.
they shared with you via email that this is a curriculum that would be very, very helpful for them. So that's not true. Teachers have spoken out about how important this curriculum is.
Four teachers is not 22,000 teachers.
It's not four
As
teachers.
we
It's way more
as
than
we
four
have
teachers.
discussed before,
They also
when
came
you
and
go
talked
on
to
and
you.
on
need to
about the
move on.
You today are your
majority,
community, and you represent your
Mr.
community.
Carver,
You
do
are
you
not
have any
representing your community, and you are not representing your teachers right now.
Stephanie,
she never
Mr.
represents
Carver,
We
do you
are
have
so off
anything to
topic.
say?
We are so off topic of personal stories
Okay,
that are being brought into
it's
an
Mr.
ELA
Carver's
discussion. They
turn.
need to stop.
Okay, Mr. Carver, do you have anything to say about the
against
presentation?
teachers regularly is having effect. I know it's
Is he there, Mr.
Thank you,
Carver?
President Paperman.
Yes.
I appreciate the added input from the community and from the educators. I'm just going to leave it at that. I believe that I believe. I would like to see this kind of engagement and this kind of excitement about all of our curriculum. We need to have constructive dialogue back and forth so that we can understand. Not everybody is going to read the same passage the same way and get the same thing out of it, but we do need to make the best decisions for the children. And with that, we can all agree, I would think. And I'm I'm glad to see everybody engaging with the process, I guess is what I want to say out of this. And to the folks that feel that they were somehow slighted because we voted no when this first came up at the last meeting, I know it's hard to not take it personal, but it's not personal. We vote the way that we vote for reasons that may not be known at the time to everybody in the room. But I would hope that each of us has done our own due diligence. Everybody has come to know me since I've been on the board that I do my due diligence, and I have good reasons for the reasons that I vote the way that I do, and I always answer my emails unless, as Mrs. Fisher mentioned, if somebody sends an email that you're going to tell me you're an ELA teacher, but you've obviously included about as many slights as you think that you can still put in there, but still try to be respectful about it. It's probably not intended to be responded to, so please don't be offended if I don't respond back, because it sounds like we're just trying to air some frustration there. So I think the information that's been shared has been very helpful, and I appreciate it. And yep, that's all I got for us. Thanks, President Paperman.
Okay, so I have something to say.
You know what?
From the
am I
previous
able to talk at some point in time?
from the previous board meeting that we had, the reason that I did not vote from previous board meeting, parents provided feedback and evidence when they reviewed the curriculum under McGraw Hills in August. They were for this curriculum, so they supported this curriculum. But what's interesting is where my concern came in, that in the present, when they looked at it, they were confused because while they review in August, there were parts that was different from the present. So that's where the issue came.
President
So
Paperman may
the
address that.
question that I did ask is, is there like a, that you turn on and off, like what is visible
President
to the
Paperman,
teachers?
as a district, we would work with the tech team and we would be able to identify any of the content that we would turn off. That's why it's customizable. So what you went in and saw would not be what we would be having in front of our teachers and students. That is something that as a curricular area, we would review very closely. Similar to social studies, similar to science, similar to mathematics.
And parents community were saying that there has been a change. So I'm going to read it what they have researched. It says I guess a company, Plantum Equity, announced that it has completed the acquisition of McGraw Hills, a global leader in education content and digital platforms, for a purchase price of approximately $4.5 billion in August 2nd in 2021. McGraw Hill CEO Simon Allen and his senior leadership team will continue to lead business under Platinum's ownership. So according to the parents, they believe that that this curriculum that they supported in the past, because it was bought from a different company, they believe that this is why they saw changes. But as you stated, that you have control of what's going to be visible and not visible. So I'm just giving information from parents' concern. I did get concerns from teachers, besides the 85 teachers that were working with the committee. So I did get information from teachers with questions saying, well, we're going to be adopting curriculum every few years. How much does it cost? Enrollment is going down. It is a challenge with the budget. Even, supporting the teachers, giving them better health insurance, maybe give them a bonus, a Christmas bonus, and allocate the money that is going to benefit the staff. So I heard from different side, not just the committee that, that you have been working with, and then hearing the other side of the teachers where, where they feel that, well, why do we need to change curriculum? If we can continue with this curriculum, and if books need to be replaced, the cheaper way is then order those books and replace them. And I did some research. I did talk to the individuals that are in charge of the curriculum adoptions, or who's in charge at the library of the books that are being bought. So I did get some feedback that yes, they, some district, they have a lot of books which they have spent, millions throughout the years. And then the question is, one of the teachers from an association from a different district, I thought was interesting. The question is, well, why don't we, just don't buy the whole curriculum to save money and just replace the books that need to be replaced? So I'm just giving you viewpoints, not just from your committee. I'm giving viewpoints what teachers have to say and what parents have to say. And of course, from my experience, I also have asked that question, 21 years of teaching. Why do we spend so much money every few years on curriculum adoption, when all we need to do is just replace those books?
President Paperman.
Dr. Galligan is speaking, please, Dr. Galligan.
President Paperman, the current adoption was from 2013 and is 10 years old. The vendor is no longer providing support for that adoption. So after 10 years of the same resource, which is a good chunk of time, that is why we are coming to you with this adoption. When we look at the cost, and I shared the cost between the three vendors, StudySync came in under $1 million, $783,000. The other two came in over $1 million. So the team was being very frugal, as well as the partnership in working with McGraw-Hill to ensure that we could be fiscally responsible. This adoption is for 5 years, with the possibility of just continuing to renew after that without going through a full-blown adoption. So we're being as fiscally responsible as we can with a product that we've had for 10 years that is at end of life and will no longer be supported.
May I say something, Mrs. Paperman?
Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you. Dr. Galligan, are we, with this adoption, what are the mediums that we're using? Are we using textbooks? Are we using the internet? How are these resources going to look?
This particular resource is an online resource and integrates beautifully with Canvas. So
there are no textbooks that we're purchasing?
Just the consumables. So this particular vendor does provide consumables that teachers can use year after year after year for the 5 years of the adoption.
Okay, so all those textbooks that we have apparently in the libraries, I do know that our librarians do keep books for 100 years until they have to move them on. So I'm not quite sure what that comment was aimed at, but perhaps you could get some more clarification in an email from Ms. Paperman about books in a library that we're not using. The skills that are now going to be incorporated in this new adoption, will they currently meet the standards and the scope and sequence of the standards that we have, that I believe that the ELA standards might have been updated in the last 10 years by the state?
President Paperman, Ms. Ordway, that is correct. The standards have been updated. This resource addresses and provides teachers with the materials that they need to work in their collaborative teams, their multi-school teams, as they work through the scope and sequence and assessments, and the most important, students reading literature and writing. We did have in public comment teachers who spoke specifically to this resource, saying that the resource does provide classics and new literature. One teacher specifically mentioned Moby Dick and Hatchet, and that particular teacher did specifically give reasons why StudySync was the resource that this committee recommended. One of our parents that spoke also talked about what he looks for when his child is in reading, and he looks for that child to be able to think critically. Let me see what else he said. Be able to look at different points of view. So we did have just tonight speakers who not only spoke about the process, but also about the program itself, StudySync. The other thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm fine.
I was going to say, I believe you also mentioned the robust content of this resource that our students would have the opportunity to avail themselves of. And I am going to ask another question because I asked at the other, whichever meeting it was, the last one, about how we not integrate. I'm trying to think of the word, but across our subjects that we teach. Normally, I thought, anyway, a while ago, and you can correct me, we did try to, if we were doing, say we were doing the Civil War, music would be doing something with Civil War, math might have some word problems with Civil War, obviously social studies would be doing it, and there would also be selections in ELA. Is that still true that we try to integrate that so the information is presented in a lot of different ways?
President Paperman, Ms. Ordway, that is correct. Cross-curricular instruction not only is well and used, and research shows that it is a good way to have kids transfer learning between content. And not only transfer learning between content, but to engage them in maybe subjects that they either are not as good in or as interested in, because that cross-curricular work in social studies or in science with literature that supports that and writing that supports that draws out that interest.
So another question for full transparency.
Well, could I finish,
are you
please?
still going, Mrs. Orway?
Yeah, I'm going to still go until I'm done asking my questions. Okay, so with this, the state, I'm not sure what they're called anymore, but what grade levels do we have ELA state assessments in?
State assessments are in grades 3 through 8 for English language arts. And then in high school, it's different, but we're talking right now middle school.
So our 6-8 would be maybe up to date with a curriculum that matches the new standards, even though they're probably not brand new. We just haven't been able to, utilize these books anymore. So I guess my point, what I'm going to say, I did plenty of research. We have Dr. Galligan saying there were 85 people inclusive or in addition to the actual committee. I heard Ms. Fisher say she talked to, maybe 12 people. And then I also heard, I don't know how many people, I'm not quite sure what Mrs. Paperman was referring to, but sounded like maybe another 15, 20 people. So when we say that, because 85 people are responded, and out of that we had 92% that, are asking that this be recommended. We've had parents speak to the positivity of having this, and they gave reasons. We have, I don't know, Dr. Galligan, who seems to be an expert in this field, talk about how this will be so helpful for our students to be caught up. Plus the teachers that came to talk. I'm just not quite understanding how one decision is based on 24 people talking to them, even though it's not in a, I don't know what they said. I wasn't in the conversation, and who knows what the context was. And then 85 people that I do know what the context was because it was written down. I'm just going to explain my vote now. It's going to be yes, as it was the last time, yes, because I not only trust the process, I trust the people that are completing the process and the people that are part of the process. And there's not one of them on that committee or that spoke tonight as a teacher, whether they teach ELA or they just talk about how they feel very unvalued as teachers. I'm just going to go with that because the process and the people, I'm going to trust the experts to do this because not one of them goes in there thinking that, hey, let's adopt this because it'll be crappy for our students and it'll be hard for the teachers. So that never happened. So my vote is going to be yes, and there you have it.
Any other questions, Mrs. Orwing?
Yeah, I think that we ought to call for the vote.
Okay, so for full transparency, in the future, we need to survey everyone to give them a voice, and not just 85 people.
President Paperman?
Yeah.
If I may.
Yes.
If we were to just go back 5 years ago, when we were going through adoptions, 85 public responses would have been, we would be jumping up for joy because we would have 85 folks who gave of themselves to look through resources and give us their opinion. We have never had this kind of responses from our stakeholders. And when you look at the iReady math adoption, I believe we had 135, it could have been 145 public responses. That was for 6 grade levels, 145. Let's go high, 145. For 6-8 with only 3 grade levels, we had 85 responses. If you look at the percentage between the two of those, more of our 6th through 8th grade stakeholders gave of their time to give us input. Whether you agree with that input or not, that percentage was higher than math and so much better than it has been in the past. We are just very thankful that our community and our stakeholders listen to all of the things that we put out, asking them for their feedback. So when you say all need to give information on the survey, we have done our very best to get that information out. And we too appreciate any stakeholder, whether they agree with a resource or not, to give us their feedback, because that gives our committees that critical feedback that we need to make a decision and a recommendation for you, the board. So we'll continue to do our very best to ask our stakeholders to give us feedback on any upcoming adoptions. And I appreciate that comment.
Okay. And moving forward, Dr. Finch, and I'm going to talk on behalf of many teachers that came to me. Please do not send emails from a district to get staff, to come and give their, opinions or concerns on how the board needs to vote for a specific agenda.
President
Thank you.
Paperman,
So
may I
we're
address that too?
we're going to move forward with the vote.
Mrs. Paperman, I just wanted to make sure
Dr.
that...
Galligan,
I'm
what
so
were you going
sorry.
to say?
I was just going to say, last spring, our board members asked our teachers to come to the board meeting and talk about grading. We thought with the precedent that our board had set last spring, that an invitation to our English language arts teachers would be appropriate. It was simply an invitation. They could choose to come or not come. So we were using precedent set by the board in that invitation. And I apologize if you would rather that we don't invite our stakeholders to board meetings in the future, but that was what we were considering, is just that you all had asked teachers to come to board meetings then, and we invited them to come now.
Well, I guess the teachers, many of them, they didn't see it as an invitation. So we're going to move forward with the vote. All those in favor, all those in favor.
Mrs. Paperman, can I please speak for a moment? I just want to clarify the motion, because in the motion, I was not specific. I just wanted it to be understood that the recommendation for McGraw-Hill Education Study Sync that was presented at the last meeting is what we're voting on. So if I have to amend the motion, I can, or by saying that out loud, is that included in the? I just want to make sure that the motion is clear.
Okay, so that's what we're. Okay, so we'll move forward. Okay. So we're going to move forward with the vote.
So that clarification was clear enough?
Okay.
Yep, you said as presented, and that's what they just presented, so you're okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we don't have, someone going back and saying that it wasn't clear enough. But thank you, Mr. Carver.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye, all that opposed say nay.
I emphatically say aye.
Aye.
I'd like to clarify my vote, please.
Yes, Mr. Carver.
Yes, thank you. So my opposition to the curriculum during the last vote seems to have been lost in all of the noise. My biggest concern was just simply that did we have, or what do we need to do to have as much involvement in the English curriculum as we did with the math? And that was my point in my earlier comment, just that I appreciate everybody's activity and input into what's going on, into the curriculum, and everybody sharing their voice. And that's how this works. And so I just want to thank everybody for getting involved in the process and trying to make sure that those of us that sit on the board can understand where everybody feels about everything and where their thoughts are on it. I understand, just like Dr. Galligan was saying, it wasn't too many years in the past that boardrooms sat empty with nobody attending and nobody going to committee meetings and nobody having a voice. So this is exciting to see the community getting involved and to have so many people having a voice. And I vote aye.
Okay. So I vote nay. Mrs. Fisher?
I stick with my convictions, but I do want to make one comment. I do appreciate you actually inviting teachers to come. And I would appreciate it if when they came here, we could listen. And I'm only mentioning it because you mentioned that we had invited them to come and speak about the standards-based grading. And a overwhelming amount came and said they did not support it. And board members sat there and looked at the camera and said, I get it, you don't support it, you're struggling. I'm sorry you're struggling, but I'm gonna vote for it anyways. And so I think if we're going to go off of that methodology, we need to come up with a better way of doing it. I have faith in our teachers. With or without McGraw-Hill, they can teach ELA if they choose to. They can choose to teach diversity and inclusion if they do choose to, because it's adopted officially with 3 votes. And so for that reason, because no one has shown me any way that it will not be centered on division of our children, I have to vote no.
Okay, we're going to, what's the?
May I make comment?
Yeah, Dr. Finch.
For me, this, I wanted to wait till the board had voted, but for me, this is really all about trusting our teachers or not, and our admin teams as that either we are or we aren't. Is there any evidence ever in our system that we haven't addressed any situation appropriately that we thought was off the path, that wasn't a part of the Arizona state standards? And the answer is no, we address them all. And every time it pops up, we hear about it, usually within days. And so administrators work together with our staff to make sure that we're teaching the state standards. That's the Deer Valley way. That's the way we've always done it. So I just want to reinforce that if there continues to be any curricula in our whole system where we go off the path, then please let us know. We'll deal with it. Thank you.
I'd like to clarify that absolutely, we have a year's worth of things that are off the path that board members have bounced off the agenda. So yes, we are a lot off the path. And unfortunately, we have not even tried to address
Okay,
it.
we're going to move on to item
Are we like
6,
gonna vote, or are we
consent
gonna be off
agenda.
subject?
We're moving to consent agenda, item 6. Do I have a motion to approve consent agenda?
I move that the governing board approve consent agenda items 6A through 6K.
I'm sorry, can we clarify the vote for the last one? It wasn't announced out loud.
Oh,
For 5D,
Passed
can we
3-2.
clarify the vote?
It passed 3-2, I believe.
Thank you.
okay, Mrs.
And
Fisher,
did you need
continue.
a second? I second Ms. Fisher's
Okay,
motion.
Mrs. Orway,
for-
second. All those in favor say aye, all that opposed
Aye.
say nay. Aye.
Aye.
It hasn't popped up.
Moving on to actions, to item 7, action. Can I have a motion for item A?
I move that the governing board approve all employee professional development out of state per governing board policy, GCC.
Second.
Any presentation for this? No? Okay, all those in favor say aye, all that opposed say nay.
Aye.
Aye. Can I get a motion for item B? Or for O? Mrs. Fisher, can I get a motion for item
Yes, I
B?
just have to look at something real quick. I move that the governing board approve administration's recommendation to pre-approve the addenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor of any presentation on this? No. All those in favor say aye, all that opposed say nay.
Aye.
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 Since there is student activities, again, forcing students to raise funds for salaries, I am going to have to vote nay.
Okay, moving on to item 8, discussion. Deer Valley Unified School District consultant. So the reason that this is put back for discussion, the board requested to see a survey from DVA and Dr. Zurbach. Do you have any results on this survey?
President Paperman, yes, we have some preliminary results. I believe Ms. Fisher sent those to you earlier today.
Yes, she did. She sent it to everybody in the board.
She did, yes, she did. Okay, I didn't see yours. Did you send it in email too? Or you're gonna present to the public?
President Paperman, it was, as noted in the email that was sent to you, it was
Okay.
one survey that was done in collaboration with the board, DVA, and myself.
Okay, so then you continue working together with DVA after we discussed from previous board meeting that the teachers should have done their own survey for full transparency and the district should have done their own survey for full transparency.
No,
Okay, so
that was your item,
just-
President Paperman. You said that. The board did not say that as part of the motion. Mrs. Fisher, even we had talked later too and said that she did not mind if it was a joint survey.
Okay, so I
May
would
I
like
say
to let,
something?
yes, Mrs. Orway.
Yeah, I recall that having two surveys would be interesting and probably not productive as the two parties working together, because what you're surveying is the teachers that are affected as opposed to 40 or the number of teachers that we have. So I remember it being a joint, it could be joint, and that was more preferred than two single ones that would be confusing and perhaps a waste of time.
Well, Mrs. Orway, in the past I have discussed, this is why I requested for a third-party survey, a different company, for the reason is that many teachers have said that there's no transparency within the district. DVEA represents the teachers, and they have the rights to survey the teachers to see where they stand. The district can do their own survey, and from my experience of 21 years, I have seen alignment when the district does their own survey or when the association does their own survey.
Oh,
Again,
well,
I think President Paperman, we could ask Ms. Fisher here. I do believe she would express that it was a collaborative effort. I don't think she would express that she felt any pressure, as you indicated previous meeting. But is that your pleasure? You could ask her right here.
Dr. Zurbach, I do not want to put any teachers on the spot. I know in the previous board meeting, I mentioned a teacher, he that gave concern, and I thought it was very interesting that the teachers were asking around who was the he. Apparently, all I can say is that maybe Dr. Zurbach was asking, who is the he that I was referring to. So please do not put any teachers on the spot. So I would like to, I would
Mrs.
like
Paperman,
to.
could I just ask Dr. Zurbach if he was referring to Kelly Fisher, the president of DVEA, to perhaps give her opinion of what the word collaboration meant in this specific
Yes,
event?
that's what I was referring to.
Mrs. Orway, I understand that Dr. Zurbach is asking for DVA to give her opinion of why she chose to work with the district. Personally, I don't want to put this, she's a teacher, she represents the teacher. She was aware because I sent her an email with Dr. Finch. I see Dr. Finch that I requested for her to do her own survey so we can have
Well,
full transparency, with the teachers. So we do not need to put her on the spot. So we do not need to ask this teacher and ask her, why she chose to work for the district, why she chose to work for the district when she was given a direct order by the president to do her own survey. So we're going to continue with this. So community members, staff, Okay, so this is why I posted this consultant on August 8, 2022, 2023 board meeting. I presented to the board reasons why this consultant should have not been hired. So teachers do not need more professional development. They do not need math intervention, counselor, aides, social workers, dean of students to support with behavior of bullying, etc. We need to consider teacher retention, which should be a top priority. The public and staff has informed there is no transparency in our district. Teachers and students have been disrespected and treated terribly by this consultant while the district staff was aware. This consultant has a history that was who hired an attorney to conceal public record. We do not need an employee who hides public records that treats individuals disrespectful. So all I'm asking is for the board either to remove this consultant and keep in place the program, or give the teachers the option if they want to attend Dr. Dickey's professional development if they're comfortable with him. Any questions, Mrs. Fisher?
Just want to make sure I'm not going to get yelled at before I speak. Looking at the survey that the other Miss Fisher provided, it's actually very similar to in line with the one that I did, just as because nobody else would do one. No one would. It has been so difficult to get this board just to work together on anything or cooperate on anything or with anything, that it's just, it's deplorable. But looking at the results that Ms. Fisher provided, they are in line with a lot of the survey that I did as well. I don't know, does it say how many responses you got?
President Pittman, Ms. Fisher, we got
20?
about roughly just north of 240.
Okay, so you got 100 more, little less than 100 more than what I got when I sent mine out. Overall, what I'm seeing is that our teachers do not feel that Dr. Dickey specifically is positive. Some are saying that it is, but an overwhelming are saying no, not really. It's not impacting them staying. There are concerns. The one question that was not brought by either my survey or Ms. Fisher's survey is regarding options or other options. And I just, overall, our Title I schools, our teachers, the ones that have contacted me, and I'm not going to get into whether they're the majority or the not majority or whatever hoo-ha that's going to be text to be said. Overwhelmingly, the ones that have spoke to me have said what they truly need is support in their classroom. They need support either in the form of additional teaching staff or paraprofessionals or supports of that nature for the work they're doing. They did not feel, the ones that contacted me, and I can't say who contacted anybody else, said they did not feel that this was the best use of funds when they were genuinely suffering in the work they're doing and their ability to support the kids based on the lack of resources. That's just my take. I don't, because this isn't on as an action item, it's just on as a discussion item. We don't actually have the opportunity to vote on what we're going to do. I was pleased to hear at the last meeting that we do have a ability to cancel legally without a penalty to the district. I would like, just based on these results, unless you're expecting to get more results, based on these results and the results that I had as well, I would like this to come back as a actual vote but I would like to see some substance as to the district's plan. What's the alternative? If we simply say we're going to, we're going to bring it back and we're going to do away with Dickey and just keep Scholastic and still pay the money. Okay, well, what is Scholastic going to do at that point? What are we replacing it with? If we're going to say we're going to do away with this, it's not working, we're going to dedicate the remaining dollars to paraprofessionals, to additional supports for our teachers, to whatever the plan is. I don't want to just say get rid of Dickey because we've gotten enough people to say get rid of them, but not have additional supports for our staff, because then it still doesn't do any good. The whole point of those dollars, those Title I dollars, is to improve the outcomes for our students. And the only way to improve their outcomes is to give the teachers the support they need to serve those students. So that's my take on it. I mean, their survey, whether we like or not who established it, it comes out about the same. In that is that there are still concerns, and the concerns are definitely there for our teachers in Title I schools and our students in Title I schools. And this isn't meeting their needs from what I'm seeing.
I would like to add to on the surveys some of the comments where the question was, we noticed that the principals have been using that PD time and that time for Dr. Dickey during staff meetings, monthly staff meetings, and some teachers voiced a concern that now that they are using these staff meetings for Dr. Dickey, they're not actually dealing with the problems on their campus. The whole reason we have staff meetings is to kind of talk and kind of all come to a same understanding, ask questions, have conversations, in the morning or after school, whenever the principal decides that's the best time. I know personally staff meetings were a great time for us to discuss and learn from each other. And without those happening and they're being replaced by this third party, that's also something else that I really caught when I was going through those comments with the teachers. And my suggestions are also to, I know that we are understaffed, so I can't say this is what we should do with it. But I do know that several of our Title I schools have no music programs and no art programs. And I'm wondering if those dollars can be put into the hiring process of that, or is it just that no one's going there? I don't know what's going on that way. I would like to see that, and I would like to see some training that can be provided for our teachers and students to help with their ability to just deal with trauma and impacted trauma and feeling safe and comfortable at school so that they can actually learn something.
President Paperman, I can go through if the board preliminary results that were sent to you.
You may. Yeah, you can send us the information.
President Paperman, the information was already sent to you. I can go through that information now. I can do an overview of the results if the board would like.
Yeah, you can, go over the results. So that way the community members, they can hear staff, what the results are, yes. To the
Just
public.
verbally,
Well,
I
we
could
need to be transparent and let the public know what you say.
Well, the only concern is, are any of the comments, if there's any comments that would violate a HIPAA or a FERPA, has anybody gone through them all?
Have you gone through the?
Yeah, this would be, President Paperman, Ms. Fisher, this would be just a high-level overview, giving in general what the data said.
It would have to just be the charts, not any of the comments, because we don't know whether or not anything was said in them that's confidential.
And
so
it's preliminary. It's preliminary.
Yeah, and it's
you can talk about it from the 30,000 foot level.
Exactly, and it is just preliminary for that. And again, Ms. Fisher is here from DVA, and she could jump in if she would like with any of the comments that I'll make regarding the data. But just for some additional context for this, again, the questions that were on this survey, there were 10 questions, and the questions were made that did resemble, as Ms. Fisher said, an earlier survey that was sent with probably some additional response options for teachers at our Title I schools. Those questions were sent to Ms. Fisher from DVA, and then I did suggest revisions for some of the questions, again, primarily doing with respect to expanding the response options for teachers, as some of the responses were limited in terms of how folks could respond to the question. The questions had open-ended responses and closed-ended throughout the 10 questions. And then Ms. Fisher administered that, I believed, Ms. Fisher last Thursday, I think is when it was, December the 7th in the afternoon. And then it will close officially at the end of this week on the 15th. So again, everything that I'm telling you now would be preliminary results. As I already mentioned, there were about 240 responses, just a bit north of that. And then any limitations right now that we currently have is we aren't able to disaggregate by the school at this point. There was a desire to keep from doing that by certain stakeholders, which we respected, and that was fine. But that is a limitation in terms of how we could say if a particular building had a strong feeling one way or another compared to another. Another limitation to this survey is that certainly there's context involved in many of these questions, which does not come out at times. And so with that, you have to interpret it with a grain of salt, right, for that, as it may or may not be meaningful in terms of how you want to take it. So for the charts and the graphs, as terms of who took it, probably somewhere in the range of 40 to 45% of staff, of the teachers took that. There were some non-teaching staff that took the survey, and I noticed that in just some of the responses that folks had. But for the most part, it looked like it was primarily taken by teachers. And again, the cross-section, as I'm looking at the pie chart, it looks like it ranges from about 5% to 20% at any one particular site, as far as when looking at all 250 responses, with the largest being Barry Goldwater, which makes sense as they do have the largest staff of title schools. Our next question we asked our teachers is what level of exposure they've had with Dr. Dickey. And we asked that because it would definitely influence or impact the response, as some of our teachers have had what I'll call minimal exposure, and that would be through solely the virtual webinars that he has done, while other teaching staff have had more in-person opportunities with Dr. Dickey, and that would be either through a modeling that he has done himself or perhaps in small group. So when you look at those numbers, again, in the preliminary numbers, we see that just south of 90% of the teachers have participated in a virtual session, and then between 1/3 to 40% of the respondents have had a more substantial interaction with Dr. Dickey, again, either through modeling or through a small group presentation. And certainly there's overlap there. Okay, the next question asked about the how purposeful is the PD, and that one we did find right now it's about 60-40. And Ms. Fisher, you echoed that again based off your survey. I think ours, this particular one, was 63% who said no, that they didn't feel that it was purposeful for them. We had about a quarter, a little north of a quarter, who said yes, and then a smaller percentage who said they haven't had enough involvement in order to make a decision on that. And so I think, again, Ms. Fisher, I think yours was just was similar, but perhaps on the opposite side. That's what I think. But again, about 60-40 on this one. For the support that folks say in terms of how much they value the support, 54% we have on this one, so a little north of 50 said no, that they were not valuing the support. And then again, about, and I'm speaking roughly here, again at the 30,000-foot view, about a quarter each so said yes, and then a quarter again said that they had not had enough interaction make a decision on that. The question regarding being treated with respect, this is one where the percentage who said they had not been treated with respect was under 15%, so the vast majority had stated that they either have been treated with respect, so that was about half of the respondents that took the survey, and then the other percentage had said again that they had not had enough interaction with him to make a decision on that. And I'll limit my discussion then to the comments, but I will say there was nothing substantial in the comments as far as, or anything alarming, let me say that, as far as folks who had said that they thought they could be more respect with their interactions. For time spent preparing lessons and writing objectives, this question again likely would need much more context in order to make an interpretation from this. But again, with this one, we see that some of the concerns that the board was hearing was not found in the preliminary data that we have so far, as we were hearing, or I was hearing from the board that folks were saying it was hours and hours and hours, and that was not found in the data. We had just a little less than half of our respondents said it was 15 minutes or less. And then we have additional categories, which you have 16 to 30 minutes, 31 to 60, which have smaller percentages. And then you have the more than an hour group, which was just under 20%. And then another percentage, which was NA. And again, without context, that's a difficult question, as without knowing if it's a newer teacher or a veteran teacher, that newer folks, and there's a lot of newer folks in our title schools, just in general are going to spend quite a bit of time on planning, just like any new teacher is going to do for their students. Okay, our next question then asked about teaching at a Title I school and would they continue teaching at it due to this training. Again, this particular question probably lacking context, as it's unlikely that any person is going to make a decision based off of 3 touches on a webinar, if that's what they've had. Nonetheless, more than half of the respondents said that they were going to return to the school, but it was due to other factors unrelated to Dr. Dickey. And then we see smaller percentages of about 11% said they weren't sure to the question. We had 19.9% saying that it was not likely, and then 11.2% saying likely to that. We then, Ms. Fisher, you had asked about the question regarding other PD, and I do believe, Ms. Fisher, that that was included. I think that was the last question that we had. And so
we just do Kelly and Kim, because I'm not sure. He's talking to you, I think.
All right, Kelly. So I do believe that that question was included. I think, Ms. Fisher, was the 10th question on this, which asked, is there additional training that you would recommend? And so we do have that, but again, that's going to be in comment form. That was an open-ended response, not a closed-ended. So I can give you, if you would like, again, I would not be divulging anything with FERPA to give you the top 3 as far as what respondents said in a summary. But you have already stated that you wanted to limit it to just the charts if you do.
Oh, we don't want to violate. So thank you for this information. We don't want to go any further. So community members, at least they got some information what entails within the survey. So if anybody wants to come back and listen to the recording, they can see how the results came to be.
Yes, again, it's preliminary.
Dr. Mrs. Irwin?
I'm not sure if this was included somewhere or it can be verified. Are all of the campuses that have this resource available to them, are they all using their staff meeting time? And have we been able to document and find out when and where, if there's extra time, how it's being paid, and are we able to do something that is the same uniform throughout the schools that are using them? And I know that at some point in time, things do have to be customized to each campus because everyone's got something different going on. But at least the paying for the extra time, if there is any, needs to happen. And I would echo Mrs. Simichuk with the not replacing staff meetings with anything, including this.
President Paver, Ms. Ordway, was there a question about the pattern among the schools, or are you making a comment?
Actually, the question was, are we paying for time that is outside of their teaching duties, and is there a way to not utilize staff meetings for the PD?
President Paperman, Ms. Ordway, so in the, I believe I had sent a document which summarized the meetings for the schools, and in that document, for folks that are listening here in the audience, the pattern, the clear pattern from the schools is that they were mindful of the time that folks are expected to be present for additional meetings, whether they be staff meetings or any of the other meetings that may be occurring, in addition to planning time, et cetera. And so they were making intentional efforts to substitute those times so that it would not be on top of others. And that goes, so that would answer the first part of your question. As far as additional times, a contract day in our district is a day. There's no specific hours for a particular contract working number. And so the day would be when the day is completed with those duties. So I think I answered your second part, but you can tell me if I did not.
I just want to make sure. I do know what our school day is. I know how the school day works. But what I'm saying is, if we're still hearing teachers saying that they're not being paid or not compensated, and I guess whatever else they could use in addition to being paid, but I think most of them want to get paid. If we could make sure that that is happening or not happening, and if it is happening, if we can correct that, that would be great, because my only concern my biggest concern is that the teachers are not, or there are some teachers that may not be compensated for time that is outside the normal school day, outside of any other contractual responsibilities that they've signed. So I don't know how you get to specific teachers because, we're all afraid to say something, apparently. But if we could get the teachers that are saying they're not being paid, then we can fix that, whether it's a perception or it's true, we can then fix that, because I don't like to hear that we're not compensating teachers nor anybody else that's in our system as an employee.
President Paper, Ms. Ordway, so again, in this, I believe I understand your sentiment. Where it is perhaps just more complicated is, again, in terms of when teachers engage in PD, that would be an expectation of any staff member, whether they're in title or non-title. So again, in order to help mitigate against duties compounding on top of other duties, I believe, again, in that document that I believe that all schools were working within the normal confines of when they would have normal PD or staff meetings to take that into account because they didn't want to add on extra. And so I could defer to my partner Mrs. Moffett on that if you would like, but that would be my response to that.
Yes, and I get it, and I know this is it sounds like it's becoming circular, but I'm still hearing I'm not getting paid, blah, blah, or not blah, blah, blah. It's an important blah, blah that I was saying. I'm not getting paid. So I just want, maybe you could make another deep dive into it and see if somewhere, somehow, somebody didn't understand how someone needs to get paid or that they're already being compensated. That's all I'm asking for. I just want to make sure that they are being compensated for their time. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zurbach.
No, just if there weren't, I didn't know if there were additional comments by board members. But again, I would conclude, I guess, my part saying that it looked like, and again, I'm speaking roughly, so it was about a 60 to 65 to 35 to 40 split on some of the questions that were in. It looked like the vast majority had indicated that there were not concerns based off of some of the respect issues that were voiced to us, and as well that some of the concerns about the inordinate amount of time that folks were spending was also not found in there. As we know, with anything, change is rarely comes without challenge, right, for us. And so our title staff, they do a great job, and I'm proud of our title staff. When I'm in the schools and I see what they're doing with the challenges that are faced to them, both from the community and from inherent challenges that are within the profession, I am very proud of the work they are doing. And I know that we can continue to engage in this continuous improvement process to help our students and our staff do even better. And so there are times when certain practices it may take time for someone to refine a practice before and do it consistently well and to where they would see perhaps more of an immediate benefit to them. It is not always linear when you are engaging in continuous improvement. As you know, this is not my first rodeo at doing continuous improvement for Title I schools. In a previous life, that's what I did. I worked with schools, I helped improve them, and we did that in all of our situations. And so I think we look to see at the end of the week with Kelly to see do our preliminary results change or not change as far as with what I've already communicated to you. And then we can adapt. We can adjust. We can look to see where it would be appropriate to do so. I can work with our Title I principals. I certainly can work with our cabinet as well and make some of those adjustments.
Thank you, Dr. Zurbach. I just hope that in the future that DVA will do surveys related to their teachers to look at the data, and districts, they do their own survey. So in the future, I would like to see that separately. I would like to ask the governing board, I know Mrs. Fisher and I stated that we would like this to come back as an actual vote, but this is going to depend what the other board members do, if they agree with us. So should we bring this back, or we're done with this discussion?
Well, I don't necessarily know that I want it back as a vote because I don't know what we should vote on. What I'm saying is if we're going to bring it back as a vote, I want to know what that means.
Yeah. And
that's
and
what
I
I'm
think
asking.
to bring it back up as a discussion when we have all of the results of the survey, which it sounds like since it closes on Friday after the holiday, we should have all the information.
So you can just put it back on just as a discussion again.
It's no different than how you do it today. When a board member says, I would like to see it, it goes to the next, in this case, it'll be the next president, puts it on the agenda accordingly if they, within 60 days, blah, blah, blah. The normal process.
Actually, we could just put it on as a discussion item as Ms. Simicek also said she would like it on. We don't have to keep playing board games.
Right. But you
I,
need to
I
follow,
like the
you need to
discussion
follow the
item.
process. You follow the
Well,
process.
I like the discussion item with the rest of the data. That would be awesome.
So let's just put it on the January meeting as a discussion item. And then whether or not the next board president puts it back as an action item at some point will be up to their instructions or their, what they wish. But just go ahead and put it on as a discussion.
Okay, so Sheila, you have that down, right? Okay, thank you. So we're going to move on to report, superintendent report.
Okay, thank you. Just want to reiterate some of the awards that we had before the meeting tonight. If you didn't have a chance to attend that, you can go back and hit rewind and watch it. We did have Barry Goldwater here to accept award and recognition for being the runner-up in Division III in their state band marching competition. I believe that might be the highest they've ever scored. They jumped from 5th to 2nd and did a great job there. Congratulations to them. Mountain Ridge, I think, will be in our next celebration. We also had 2 students that were junior ROTC students from the Air Force chapter, won the Silver Valor Awards, which was for helping a student on an orienteering project where the kid got bit by a snake. And our 2 kids, the other kid was from another school district, and the kid eventually actually passed out, and they had to carry him. A gal and a gentleman, kid did that, so we honored them. So make sure you go back and watch that. That was pretty amazing. And then we also honored a thespian club from Deer Valley High School that won first place in prop changeover and platform building, those kinds of things. And they're going to be competing nationally, so I just want to put emphasis on that. I did have a chance to attend the ASA joint conference for a couple times as well, and probably other board members will talk about that. Always good to hear different whatever is happening in other school districts and how we can adapt to our system. The latest podcast did last week. I want to just thank Matt Salmon, who's our guy that edits all those. We did it on the teacher prep program, so make sure you tune into that. And 3 great stories of staff members who are now Deer Valley staff members in the teacher prep program from other walks of life. So tune into that. It's on Spotify and Apple, etc. Even on our website. It's a teacher prep program. It's pretty great interviews, some great stories from staff members. And last but not least, we're getting ready for the legislative season. EFRG, NEVIC, and ASA are the groups that I'm involved with. We're talking about different things that are going to be happening. And so if you have any interest in that and want to know what's going on as board members, just let me know. I can tell you what's going on. I do put most of it in what I know in the Friday updates. It's still early, but we'll know economically what's happening from the state perspective here pretty soon. And then just a reminder, thanks to all our staff who put in their hard work, get us to the break, and then make sure you enjoy that break with family and friends. And we'll get back to PD on January 2nd and the 4th of January. We'll have our first business partner event that we have that will fill this room up, about 100 folks. That'll be here January 4th, and then the 9th will be our next board meeting next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Finch. We're moving on to governing board report. Mr. Carver.
Thank you, President Paperman. Over the last couple of weeks, I had the opportunity to sit in on a meeting with Dr. Z and Mr. O for the ALS reports and to get a briefing on the kind of meetings that they hold on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis to help ensure the safety and security of our children. That's going to be an evolving process, a set of meetings, as I've asked whatever it is that I am allowed to be included on the calendar for, if they could send me that invite so that if time allows that I might be available for that I'm a firm believer that knowledge is power, and you know, the more I learn and the more that I'm aware of what's going on in the processes that we're expected to follow, the better benefit I can be to the community and to the school district. So we had that, and then Stetson Hills winter choir concert. That was amazing. I got to attend that with my wife, and tell you what, that is an award-winning choir over there at Stetson Hills, literally. They are steeped in awards, and they did an amazing job that night, and it was a beautiful, beautiful sight to see. So, 1 second for me. Seems like there's something else. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much, everybody. Please have a blessed holiday season, and I look forward to seeing everybody after the new year.
Thank you, Mr. Carver. Stephanie?
I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. I just want to thank the school board for making what I think is a really strong, positive decision in our curriculum, passing our curriculum this evening. So I just really want to express my thanks for that, and to the community for stepping up and sharing your thoughts, because your opinion matters. You are stakeholders in this, and we want to always be hearing from you. So I just want to thank our community for coming today, for speaking, and for the emails. Let's see real quick. Last week, I was able to attend the Barry Goldwater dance performance. It was really beautiful. They did a fantastic job. I also, last week, was at the ASBA conference for 3 days, which is probably where I got this COVID that I have now, but I learned a ton, and it was very fun in the moment. And I just really want to wish everybody a happy holiday season, and enjoy your time off with your friends and family. And I'm just really thankful to be a part of this community, and I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Mrs. Orway?
Yeah, we are last board meeting for 2023. How quickly time flies. We have so many students and staff that have accomplished such wonderful things, big and loud, small, silent, all of equal importance. I have been, and I continue to be, proud to serve this district for now 15 years, and it'll be going on 16. We do have a great staff. We have wonderful students. We have supportive parents, and we have one of the most generous communities. Our Angel Tree project that we do every year has not fallen short. I'm not exactly sure at this moment in time how many families, students that we have served, but it is over 100. And these kids, along with the adults that they live with, are having things that they want in addition to things that they need. So I just find that to be a wonderful thing, to be able to have something they want. We have some homeless families that have been living in cars that are now, due to funding, are going to be able to spend at least 2 weeks, and it will be the 2-week winter break, in a hotel. So again, awesome people in our community. I have been able to get Sunrise School, a partner in Woody Livingston, who works, well, I don't know what's called work, but he's with the Church of Latter-day Saints, and they are, I don't know, it's just awesome. So now Sunrise has a partner. Deer Valley Education Foundation has gotten their cards from Albertson Safeway. So I don't know, it's just great, because there's going to be many families that will be able to, again, maybe have some dinners that they want, as opposed to the things that they can usually just afford, if anything. With the chemotherapy, I had 2 weeks off where I wasn't sick. It was so fabulous to be able to wear that mask and get into an office and deliver the gifts are for Paseo Hills and for Mirage. I got to drop some other stuff off, so the freedom that I had for those 2 weeks was great. And then, of course, on Monday at 8:15, it all started over again. So, by tomorrow we'll have that. We'll have a new shot and maybe 4 days off. So I am so thankful for being able to get to I missed all of the fun concerts and that sort of thing. Anyway, so it was just nice to be able to see faces if it was only for a few minutes. So that might clarify like a misperception that, hey, I'm all out and about and I'm not, taking my responsibilities serious. I am. Always have and always will. It just hurts sometimes, and then it goes away because it's, garbage on a social media platform where, you've got a board member stating as a fact that district employees, governing board members, even our lawyers, break the law every day. We don't follow rules, which is just so, I don't know, it's just so ridiculous, and it's not good for our kids because, if there are people listening to that without verifying it, they may actually think that we're like that, and we're not. The inference that board members and Dr. Finch are conspiring for whatever it is, I don't know, is ludicrous. Perhaps the only thing that board members and a superintendent conspire is to how great we can make our district. So that stuff probably should stop. And, I chronicle my journey through the board, through the chemotherapy, because it kind of helps other people understand things, and it's good to get it out. So we talk a lot about transparency, truth, integrity, and ethics. So during the 2 weeks that we're going to have off from the board, maybe not from our normal jobs or whatever it is that we fill our time with, but I'd like each of us to reflect on our actions, responsibilities as elected nonpartisan governing board members that are supposed to be lifting each other up and not tearing things down, because that's a horrible modeling for our staff and students. So in January, we have an opportunity to reset our behaviors, to make them better, to be honest, truthful, genuine, and I hope that we take advantage of that. It would just be awesome to be a board that can have totally opposite opinions, but not be contentious and disgusting and degrading towards our staff and each other. So I want everyone to have a great, relaxing, safe Christmas break. No boots when you come back from that skiing accident that you had because you haven't been on the slopes for, 20 years. So let's just all remember family. Family is family, and whether our Ohana is our district family or it's our immediate family or our friend family, let's just remember every moment counts. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Orway. Mrs. Fisher?
Yes. I will start with the ASBA conference. I was glad to hear that there is other resources that we can use, looking at ASU Helios project that they have going on for decision making. We can actually get data since we don't generally get complete data. It would be nice to be part of that. It was interesting, years ago when even if individuals didn't agree with ASBA, didn't really like ASBA, it was really important to Ms. Ordway and Ms. O'Brien that we make the effort to get the All Board Award. And so, working with the then board members who did not really want to go to ASBA, with Miss Tweedy and Miss Frank, we came together, and it was amazing. We did come together because it was important to two board members. I was very saddened by this ASBA conference. Our board is so divided. Our entire district and board with administration is so divided. It's sad to sit and watch when a board member doesn't even know what to do because has no guidance and won't speak up and won't ask for assistance because just because, not a real valid reason. Or when we can't work together even for the success of our district. I watched as board members talked about how they're doing, and I listened to some of the newest superintendents, even baby superintendents, on how they have united their board with their staff, with their community, and the awesome things that are happening in their district. And it's heartbreaking to hear when I know what a tragic board this has been over the last year. I struggled when I see that we get an item on the agenda and it's moved, or we get it on a study session, it's moved, or board members walk out, or board members do whatever it is they do, and then want to lecture that there's no funny business, but it was done in front of everybody to see repeatedly through the year. I do hope that this board changes its ways, because these silly games are nothing more than harmful to this community and this district, and it shows in our results. It shows in the way things are happening. I spoke with superintendents about what they're doing and what's working. Speaking of superintendents, just because he's always been linked to Deer Valley as well, I want to congratulate Greg Stanton for his award as one of the superintendents of the year, because just like, you know, the prior year, superintendent also had a link to Deer Valley, not as a superintendent, but as a community member. It's good to see someone you know and care about successful in the actions and what they're doing. There was also a push for FAFSAs. I do think our district should be involved as well for our students. It's really good for our students. However, I would like for our district, if we're going to do that, also have a component of financial responsibility. We have a lot of students that will not qualify for federal loans or federal aid, but they will qualify for loans, and then they'll be buried in loans. So I would like financial also added. After that long 3 days at ASBA, I spent Saturday morning with a teacher who had asked me to meet her. And she wanted to let me know that she's resigned from the district. And she wanted me to know why she had resigned. And she wanted to let me know that we also are losing a student because she's taken her student with her. It was really sad to sit across a table from a teacher who shared with me that she can't teach in our district because her classroom is not safe for her to be in. She shared with me that she has gone home at night in tears. She has shared with me that over and over again, she has sent out a bullying student to be disciplined, and they have had that student sent back to their class with not even a word. The bullying student that is the issue for her has not only bullied other students, but they've actually tripped our staff, harassed our staff. And this teacher expressed how she's heartbroken to leave the district, but she can't teach where she's not safe. And she's sad for her students because they're not safe. Regardless of what anybody thinks about the bullying issues that are happening, they are happening in this district. And they've happened for a lot of years, but at this point, they are so profoundly our way of operating. They're the way our superintendent works with our board. They're the way our board works with each other. They're the way the community works. And as we saw here tonight, they're the way you push an agenda. Whether we can't have a conversation, we can disagree and agree, and we can have a conversation, or we can just bully and harass the heck out of each other. And that's the path that most are taking. And it's saddening, and it's heartbreaking to see. So I hope that any of that speech that was just given ends up being true. I suspect it will not be. I suspect we will face the family members who have requested our assistance, our service, what we were elected to do, will simply be pushed off or brushed off, just as they were all this year. I suspect that individuals will look in that camera and tell teachers, I hear you, but I'm going to vote this way because it somehow suits a need that they feel is more important than our teachers. I suspect that some board members will come back here and they will say, oh, but look, all these teachers want this one thing, so I'm going to vote yes for this one thing. This is not a game, and I think this board needs to learn that. We did a lot of great things from 2015 to 2017. 17 to 18, we did a lot of talking. And that was the last time this board was
Are we
successful.
allowed to go on like for 10 minutes? I thought we were.
Well, we went on and on.
You had
Ms.
extra time,
Ordway,
Mrs.
listening to
Orwin.
you. So I'm going to finish what I'm saying.
Yeah, 5 minutes was our allotment. You are correct.
Come January, you will have full control to undermine the board's authority. But today is my day right now, this moment. So I'm
that was
hopeful.
pretty rude and
I am hopeful. What is rude is
difficult.
you not coming to meetings when you can go to a concert and our parents are sitting right there that you
Holy
denied
cow,
it.
I think I explained that on
Miss
Monday
Ordway,
at 8:15.
Miss Ordway,
At 8:15,
I was not going to mention. I was not going to mention the shenanigans.
Oh, you did.
From
But you're mentioning
8:15
them.
until
You're bringing
3
them up.
o'clock, I received chemotherapy that is now coursing through my body through a pump.
I understand
I
that.
cannot be in person. You
And
don't
so you can
understand
have
anything. You are rude.
telemeeting.
You are rude and you are disingenuous. You hand
Yes,
out
you are, ma'am.
misinformation.
Yes, you are, ma'am.
And you are out of order.
You are, ma'am. That is correct. And nobody's illness is an excuse for a bad behavior. I am sorry, Miss Ordway, that you are sick.
You're not sorry about anything, but pushing your lies out there to make you look somehow
Miss
better
Ordway,
than someone else.
You did it in writing. It's not a lie, it's in writing.
Yes, it's in writing that I just said it out loud that I had 9 good days.
Oh, there's other stuff that's in writing.
Argue that? I'll
Miss
give you a note
Ordway.
from the doctor. Stephanie will give you a copy of her COVID test, and Paul will give you a copy of his plane ticket. But you
Miss
cannot
Ordway.
provide facts for any of your accusations.
Did
and
any of that
inferences.
prevent you from having a meeting a week ago?
In person?
2 weeks ago?
Absolutely. I don't have. When was that?
A week ago? 2 weeks ago?
There was no dates for a meeting a week ago. You guys were not transparent.
Nope,
Gave
these
no
were
time
options.
to anyone. I am done with arguing with someone who is full of herself and her narcissistic nonsense.
Yes, Ms. Ordway, you are. And please don't use the Lord's name in vain in future meetings. You may not think it's okay, but
Oh my
I've already
goodness.
had people.
You call yourself certain things
Okay,
and act the
Mrs.
opposite
Orway, can
way.
you let Mrs. Fisher finish?
No, because it's ridiculous. And yes, if I was there, I would
Okay,
now walk out of the meeting.
Mrs.
So I'm
Orway,
pushing off.
I'm going to give my board report now. I'm going to give
Go
my
ahead,
board
and we
report.
will,
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher.
Yeah, I said everything.
I would like to wish all our students, parents, and community members and staff a happy holiday and a happy new year. Thank you to our hardworking staff who have worked above and beyond expectations to maintain a safe and happy environment. Thank you to our parents and community members for being involved in their children's education and for being part of the school community in the decision making. As a community and as a district, we must continue to invest in our students, for they are our future. It has been my pleasure to be president in advocacy. I believe education is nonpartisan, and the main focus should be prioritizing the needs of students above else. It is important to keep politics out of the schools in order to make decisions based on evidence, research, and needs of students. I wish you all a safe holiday season, that we may enter the new year filled with hope and to make this year a better one for all. I also would like to say best of luck for our next president. As you have seen that, it takes work, challenges, and research, and I will keep you in my prayers. Thank you and have a happy holiday. We're going to adjourn. So we have the future dates are posted and we're going to adjourn.
So moved. Just second it, Ms. Paperman.
I second.
All those
All
in
those
favor?
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And no, the next president won't have a.
Aye.